Dog Works Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com.
Start your day tomorrow with The Daily Dog with Michelle Forto, the morning podcast on Dog Works Radio. Apple Podcast reviewer Patty Christensen calls it funny, smart, and filled with all the info I want to know about dogs. I love this show. Wake up with The Daily Dog. Available on Dog Works Radio on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your shows.
Radio Free Palmer 89.5 KVRF presents Mushing Radio, hosted by Robert Forto. Mushing Radio is about dog-powered sports, living in the Great White North, and mushing. Visit our website at mushingradio.com. Here is your host, Robert Forto.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Robert Forto, and you're listening to Mushing Radio here on KVRF 89.7 in the Matsu Valley, radiofreepalmer.org. And you can find all of our episodes over on dogworksradio.com. And you can find us on social media as well. Just search for Dogworks Radio. And today we have a musher calling in from Two Rivers, Alaska. His name is Richie Beattie, and he works or owns Wild Thingz Dog Mushing, and his website is wildthingzdogmushing.com. Richie, how's it going?
Very good. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you're all about, please?
Oh, well, geez, that's pretty easy. I'm Richie, 44-year-old dog musher. Been dog mushing for 18 years now. Like most of us, have a life that's totally geared around taking care of and developing a really awesome dog team.
You know, I was following your guys' progress over on Instagram the last couple of weeks, and I noticed that you recently ran in the Two Rivers 200. Is that correct?
Yeah, last weekend.
How did that go? Can you tell us a little bit about that race?
Well, for us, it went really, really good. I believe that was the sixth time I've run that race, and it was the toughest trail I've ever seen on that race as far as, plowing through a lot of fresh, sugary snow. Had been a whole lot of trail work in some sections of the trail previous to the race. And despite it being a tough trail, we had the earliest finish I've ever had in that race, even with previously winning it a couple times. And the dogs just perform phenomenal, just like they've been trained to do. Just keep up that 9 to 10 mile an hour pace, regardless of trail conditions or uphill or downhill, just motoring along. And it really worked out good.
So in this race, in the Two Rivers 200, which is just outside of Fairbanks, just north or so, that's your home trails. How do your dogs respond to that trail compared to other races like, the Copper Basin or the Yukon Quest, races like that? How is it when they're running in their own backyard?
Well, the toughest thing with racing in Two Rivers in a race like that is we end up going right by our home trail twice, like literally within a quarter mile of the dog houses. And the last time is at the end of a really tough 65-mile run, about 2 miles from the finish line. And, at a point in a race like that where you're keeping up a nice, quick, steady pace, not a whole lot of rest, it's pretty awesome to have the dogs just, a simple G and they motor right on by. So, racing here locally, a lot of us, that's a problem getting by home trails, but if you train for it, we've got a dog team that's determined to just keep moving forward regardless of what's going on. It can go all right. It can also be a benefit sometimes where, certain teams who don't know the trail, their dogs might start wondering what's going on this long run, but half that race is just the trails we train on all the time, so we generally know right where we are. That being said, we prefer to go race on trails that aren't our local training trails, but the Two Rivers 200 is our local race, and it's a fun race, so of course we're going to do it, and we're just going to train the dogs to excel in that, regardless of whether they're here running on home trails or away somewhere else.
So, am I correct to say that you are preparing to run the Yukon Quest 300 here in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, we are. Yep.
So, can you tell us about that? Can you tell us about that race as well? A lot of folks that listen, they listen all over the country, and they're very familiar with Iditarod and, the 1,000-mile quest. But the 300-miler is really 150 miles up and back on the first section of the Yukon Crest Trail. Can you tell us a little bit about that trail in regards to what you've done on it before?
Yeah, sure. Well, the Quest 300 happens, simultaneously with the Quest. The Quest will start in the morning. 300 will start later in the day. Some years it's 3 o'clock, some years it's 5 o'clock, but it's later in the day. And what it does is it runs from this year on a Fairbanks start. We're going from Fairbanks to Checkpoint Circle where the Quest Trail hits the Yukon River. And in Circle, they go back to the previous checkpoint, Central, and that's the finish there. What's pretty interesting, 100 is it's a really minimal amount of required rest. Like I believe it's just a 6-hour break in Central. That's all that's required. But of course, you got big summits. You got Rosebud, Eagle. Going over Eagle's not so bad in that direction. It's kind of worse as far as the downhill ride, keeping the team under control. That section gets pretty steep. So it requires you to really manage your dog team well, because obviously there's no way you're doing a 300-mile run, 6 hours of rest. It kind of forcing you to, even though it's just the 300, to approach it more like you approach the Yukon Quest, where there is a lot of camping out on the trail. Figuring out your run-rest schedules, whether you want to use checkpoints, rest in between checkpoints. But regardless, the only rest they're keeping track of is that 6-hour break in Central.
And how are the snow conditions over that way right now? I know that you guys aren't bad where you're at right now, but how is it as the further you go east?
Yeah. Last night I got an email from the Quest as far as they have a trail report. It's just the first section of the Quest Trail, basically a lot of what the 300 is running, and the initial trail breakers have said it's some of the we've seen as far as snow, very minimal overflow. There's some areas of that trail, kind of where you head up the North Fork of the Cheetah River to get to Rosebud Creek, which then takes you up to, Boulder Creek, which takes you up to Rosebud Summit, and then down to Rosebud, off Rosebud into Birch Creek. That area sometimes can be really bad overflow, and then up on the top of Rosebud can often be really exposed, minimal snow, a lot of gravel, rocks. And the trail breakers I went through a couple weeks ago are saying it looks really good.
So I understand that a lot of folks through the years have done a number of things to try to slow themselves down going down those big summits. And I know there's been pictures circulated with people using drop chains and that sort of thing. How do you control a dog team that's flying down the side of a mountain like you would see on some of those YouTube videos and such?
Right. Well, first of all, with our team, with the Wild Thingz, our dogs are not speedsters. We have a lot more low-end kind of power. Our dogs are long-legged, rangy, kind of furry type dogs, more old-school type Quest dogs, but still quick, can maintain a nice, fast, steady trot for hour after hour. And our dog team doesn't just do racing. We do a lot of tours throughout the winter. It's actually kind of a constant juggling act, trying to maintain a race team while maintaining a team for us to do tours with at the same time. Now, doing tours with parking, a lot of waiting, a lot of being in harness, and a lot of pulling heavy loads, stopping for pictures, that sort of thing. I really find that sort of work with the dogs in the tour context. Then when I'm working with the race team, you start to get a dog team that's a lot more disciplined and controlled. Like I work on things with my dogs like, I want them to be keyed up and excited to run, but when I'm hooking up, the dogs patiently stand there and wait. And a lot of times I might only run a mile or two, and I'll stop for, a minute just to train the dogs to, like, listen to me, to just take it easy. Don't be so full throttle all the time. And then, of course, around here, training on hills, I just really work on easy and trying to have a dog team that responds to that. Dog team that will, easily pick it up when I want them to pick it up for going uphill, but then easily, bring it down a couple gears and don't pull so hard on me on the downhill. That being said, years past, when I did the 1,000-mile quest going down Eagle Summit, I stopped, undid all my tugs, wrapped some drop chains around my runners, and that helped out a lot. The thing with that is, it's so steep, and just, especially if I use loping a lot, a trotting team, you just really got to get them to take it as easy as they can going down, so nobody gets sore or injured or anything stupid like that you don't want to happen to your buddies.
Right. So, Richie, have you done the quest, the 1,000-mile quest? Have you done it both ways, leaving from Fairbanks and Whitehorse?
Yeah, I have. Yep, definitely.
Do you prefer one way or the other? I've talked to a lot of quest mushers here, and it seems that they don't really have a favorite on most conversations. Do you?
I most certainly do. After running it both directions, as my thing nowadays, as long as I do 2 rivers near the quest trail, I personally would never do a Fairbanks finish again. In 2007, we were doing a Fairbanks finish, and we were rolling really nice. That was my second quest. We were running in 6th place. That year, Cheetah Hot Springs was the last checkpoint. Well, leaving Cheetah Hot Springs, getting into 2 rivers for the first time in, over a week, my dogs kind of recognized where they are, getting on the home trails, really picked up the pace. Started getting hopeful that I might even be able to reel 5th place in, because I left the checkpoint only a half hour ahead of me. But that being said, we rolled along really nice until we got to my home trail. And then the day turned into what I generally refer to as the worst day of my life, having a team just, complete shutdown, the only time I've ever experienced that. A dog team that was physically keeping weight on, great, happy spirits, along the way, but at 45 below zero, going past the home trail, yeah, that was a bad day. So I would just never risk that again. There's too much that goes into the quest, too much of your time, your money. Oh, I should also add to that story. So I was running 6th place. By the time I got my team going again to get to the finish line, we had dropped back to 16.
Wow.
You don't run dogs. You don't do these races for the money. But, a lot of us are working class people. We put everything into this, time, money, heart, so that's disheartening to go from, well, I'm running a race that might almost pay for itself, to Cheetah River at 45 for 15 or 20 hours, whatever it was, before I could get my team moving again. So having experienced something like that, I would just never risk that again. We only do fair.
Right. And, that comes back to what we said at the beginning of the show about running the 2 rivers there on your home trails and being so close. I think you said 2 miles from home. The dogs truly know which direction home is. And, even with us training on our trails here at the house, they really kick it up a notch when we turn that left turn to head back home. They know exactly where the house is, don't they?
Oh, yeah. The horses smell the barn.
Right.
They always pick it up.
With that white horse start, not only do you have to run by your home trails to finish, but it's also over 1,000-mile drive to get to the start line, isn't it?
Right. Well, I don't know if it's quite that, but it's close. It's a haul to get over there. That being said, with the Fairbanks, when you live here with a Fairbanks finish, it's kind of nice. If everything goes smoothly for you, it's pretty nice that you can finish the race and then just go home.
Right. You don't have to drive for 2 or 3 days to get back. So you had mentioned that you've ran the Yukon Quest a few times, and a lot of these shorter races as the Copper Basin, the 300, and the Two Rivers, and the Minto Dash 100, as it says on your website. But also on your website, this is a family affair. You have your wife that's also a musher, Emily. What can you tell us about her?
Oh, Emily's so awesome. She's the backbone of so many things that happen here. She personally has no desire to stand on a dog sled for 6 hours and camp out in the cold with the dogs for 2 or 3 hours and do another one. I'm the oddball that actually finds that fun and enjoyable. But here at home, she's dog mom. She takes care of the dogs so good. Our business-wise, anything having to do with the business or online, that sort of aspect of maintaining the team and the kennel, that's all Emmy. She makes that happen. I don't. That's not I'm more just on the trail guy.
Right.
But we couldn't do this. We couldn't do things without her.
I tell people all the time, Richie, that it's a lot like NASCAR, isn't it? You have to have an excellent pit crew in order to have that success of a driver on the track, right?
Yeah, something like that for sure. It takes a team. Like we talk about this a lot. The team is not just the dogs; it's the dogs and the people, and how we all interact together and work together to make the team be the best it can be.
Right.
And the person who's driving the sled, racing the dogs, isn't any more important to that team than the person who spends a lot of time on the computer, tracking down sponsors, doing outreach, answering people's questions, setting stuff like this up. That's her. And she's, I could never say enough about what a good thing Emmy's brought to the dog team.
Excellent. Well, before we talk a little bit about your tours, I found out about that checking you out on your Instagram feed. You guys have a lot of great pictures over there. But before we do, what can you tell us about your dogs? How many do you have currently, and where do they come from? What lines are they from? And maybe to end that segment, tell us a story or two about one of your favorites.
Oh, yeah, sure. So our total kennel is relatively small. We got 24 dogs here, 20 that are like actively running. And then, the leftovers are some couple of big pups and older retirees. Our dogs, genetically, almost every dog in our team comes from my old lead dog. She's semi-retired now. She just does, but her name is Wicked, like Wicked Good, Wicked Awesome. And Wicked's a dog that I bought as a puppy in 2008 from Judy Courier. And that was a breeding that Judy had done with a female she had named Wilma, who goes back to John Little's old Sun Bearer line. And she had bred Wilma to Lance's Zorro and produced a litter called the Harry Potter litter. A bunch of these dogs have ended up in really good teams. Throughout the state here. And so I got scored Wicked as a pup and have, at this point, like I said, out of the 20 running dogs here, I'd say about 18 of them are her kids or grandkids. And she's phenomenal. And then I've bred her to a couple of dogs, mainly going back to one dog we call Hobo, and he goes back to old Reddington Butcher lines. And then another dog, Rascal, who's comes out of Jeff King kind of Zorro Lance lines. And, we kind of really focus on, we don't do a lot of breeding. We never want to have a big dog team. We don't want to have more than we have now. We kind of believe in more of a quality over quantity sort of approach with our dogs. They're all individually so good, at least in my humble opinion, and collectively they work well for us. well trained. Like I said, with doing the tours and being around people, there's a lot of days that, the dogs may only do a handful of tours, but they're hooked up in harness all day long, learning to rest well, park well, just be patient. I think we work on patience, wait.
And let's talk a little bit, before we run out of time, Richie, let's talk a little bit about that tour that you offer. I know that that last year you were offering tours there just outside of Denali Park there as you're driving along the Parks Highway, right there, very close to where folks would come in to, do all the stuff that happens there in the tourist area. Can you tell us about where you're located and a little bit about your tours, please?
Yeah, sure. So that's our summer tour down in Cantwell. We're just about a mile down the Denali Highway and then off on the Jack River there. And we do a cart tour there in the summertime with this cool little 6-passenger ATV, motorless buggy sort of thing. And we do like a short ride there and then a kennel kind of interpretive kennel talk demo sort of thing, hang out with puppies. And actually last summer was our second summer doing that, and it's slowly growing. And we're going back this summer and continuing that. What works out really good there is, well, one, Denali gets kind of crazy with tourists, there's quite a bit of numbers there. And also, compared to here in Two Rivers or anywhere near Fairbanks or most anywhere in the interior for that reason, most of the summer it's just too warm to work with dogs. But up there in Cantwell, we find there's very, very few days where we've had to, just, hey, we're not open today. It's too warm. It doesn't really happen much. Most days there, it's cool, overcast. Another nice thing being there over the summer is, by August there, it's getting quite cool. Colors starting to change later in the month. And we have trails right off from our kennel site there with all kinds of water crossings. Go just do a 6-mile run, and you got plenty of places to stop in a creek where the dogs can all lay down and roll around and cool off. So we find being down there not only helps the team get ready for winter, not only because they're doing the tours every day, but then also as soon as fall comes on and it's cool enough, we really get a good early jump on some serious training.
Yeah, that area there is sort of a hotbed of mushing in the early season. You can pretty much run, I don't know, for miles, 60 or 70 miles or so right there, pretty much from your backyard on the Denali Highway. Do you spend any time there once the snow flies, or do you head back to your home place before all that?
Yeah. No, we get back to our cabin here in Two Rivers. As soon as business slows down there, we get back here, get settled in for winter. Now here in the winter, we stay pretty busy with doing tours as well, just sled ride stuff. Right.
So with that area there near the park, do you have a lot of tourist traffic, or the buses type, or just pretty much just the families that are stopping by that see you on TripAdvisor or something like that?
Yeah. So far, we kind of the market as far as like the big tour groups, that's already taken up by a couple of the other sled dog operations there. We kind of get the, like you said, just the travelers, just the people driving, passing through, see our signs, see the brochures at the campground, RV park, the smaller little lodges. We have deals with them. So it's a smaller clientele. Definitely not. There's no buses rolling in. It's more like family, smaller groups.
And you guys have some absolutely spectacular views there from that site. Pretty much a daily view of Denali if the weather's good. And like you said, it's typically crisp in terms of temperature. It's not too hot there, and it's a great place to sort of stop on the way to the park, I guess, for families and jump on a cart for a ride.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
So lastly, Richie, you had talked about getting ready to do the Yukon Quest. Do you have the Yukon Quest 300? Do you have any further plans this year? And if not, what are your plans in the immediate future? Maybe in the winter of 18-19, et cetera.
Yeah. So probably that will probably have the 300 will probably be up for racing for the winter. Besides maybe some smaller things, if Jesse puts on that Minto Dash race again, we like to do stuff like that. But honestly, for me, the dog team, I don't have a dog team so that I can race. Like racing, it's more like do races because I got this dog team. I really love camping with the dogs, mini expedition. So once we get done with racing season, March will get really crazy for us with tours, spring break time. Generally, I'll be doing, 8 to 10 tours a day for 2 to 3 weeks straight, solid. Stay really busy then. And then as soon as that slows down, the last bit of March and beginning of April, then that's spring trip time. That's when we get to what's pretty much the funnest thing I've ever done with sled dogs, North Slope trips. Take the haul road up to the top of Alaska and get up on the north side of the Brooks Range. It's open country, tundra. You don't need, there's no trails. You got good G-haul leaders. You can go anywhere, chasing caribou around, wolves chasing you around, running into muskox. I mean, that's like, that's kind of the grand finale of my mushing seasons whenever I can pull that off.
And you guys are doing that well into April?
Oh, yeah. Yep. North Slope trips are best in April. You go much earlier than that, weather can get pretty intense on you. Even in April, you can up on the North Slope, it won't be uncommon to, see some 20, 30 below temps once in a while. But generally, it's going to be more like March is around here.
Awesome. Richie, we're just about out of time. Can you do us a favor? Tell us how we can find you on social media. Where are you at on Facebook, Instagram, your website, things like that?
Yep. Just on either Instagram or Facebook. Emmy has pages set up. It's just Wild Thingz. And then same name for our website. And she's really good about she's really active on those social media forums. Me, not so much.
Excellent. All right, Richie, I appreciate it. Today we're talking to Richie Beattie today here on Mushing Radio. Richie, we'll send over some links and things once this airs over on the radio station. And until then, good luck at the race, okay?
All right. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. On behalf of my guest today, this is Robert Forto for Mushing Radio. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Did you know that Alaska Dog Works trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska Dog Works on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.
Hi guys, it's Alex. If you're a fan of sled dog sports and the Iditarod, Mushing Radio is the show for you. Each Wednesday we drop a new episode on Dogworks Radio, so be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from.
If you like our podcast, there are a few things you can do. You can take a couple of minutes and go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also check out all of our Dogworks Radio sponsors and promotions in our show notes. Another thing you can do is go over to Facebook, like our Facebook page, and one last thing, please tell all of your friends by spreading the word about Dogworks Radio. Thank you so much for listening to us. We really appreciate you.
Dogworks Radio is produced by Robert Forto. Logo art by Angry Squirrel Studios. Dogworks Radio is produced in conjunction with KVRF 89.7 in Palmer, Alaska.
For dog training advice, you can contact Alaska Dog Works at 907-841-1686 or visit their website at alaskadogworks.com. If you have a show idea or would like to be a guest, please contact us by sending an email to live@dogworksradio.com.